Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining our Sustainable Activism webinar. This is a series that In Defense of Animals is putting on to help provide more resources for animal activists. My name is Lisa Levinson. I run the Sustainable Activism campaign that offers resources like this webinar. We also have an animal activist helpline, which anyone can call for emotional support and also for resources. We have a great activist resource list as well. So those are just a few of the services that we offer. We're really trying to reach out and support animal activists everywhere. So today, I'm very excited to bring you a webinar on nonviolent communication with Tera Gardner. And I'm going to take a moment just to give you some background about Tera before we get started. So thank you very much for everyone for joining us. So Tera is a certified life coach specializing in nonviolent communication-based relationship communications and relationship addiction repatterning. San Diego Community College District credentialed in communications and personal development, Tera taught with the Community College District for over 2 decades, practicing nonviolent communication since 1992 and as a San Diego NVC coordinating team member since 1998, she now offers workshops and ongoing classes and is available for private coaching. Tera's services are also listed on her websites, which are helpmyrelationship.com and relationshipsoscoaching.com. She can be reached at tera@helpmyrelationship.com. So this is very exciting to have Tera with us. I have to mention that she also helped us prepare our Animal Activist Helpline and trained our counselors who receive those calls via NVC training. So it's very exciting to have her on board today to share some of her knowledge with us. Without any further ado, Tera.
Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be here, and thank you, Lisa, and thank you to IBA, Sustainable Activism Campaign, for offering these very supportive workshops for animal activists. And the work you all do is so vital, and I have a lot of appreciation for you all. So I am thrilled to contribute this invaluable information and communication tool today, and by offering the basic introduction to nonviolent communication, also known as compassionate or empathic communication. Now, NVC is a simple 4-step life-supporting communication process that I'm confident will assist you in supporting you and others and other activists transform from overwhelm and burnout to self-connected and confident in moving forward again. I'm further confident that you will find it a useful and invaluable body of information that will support the quality of communication in your everyday lives as well. NVC increases goodwill by emphasizing respectful, authentic, and compassionate speaking and listening, which builds harmony, trust, and a sense of empowerment, because the focus is on everyone getting their needs met respectfully. So what we're going to do, I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you so you can
Tera,
follow
can I make
along.
a brief? Tera, I'd like to make a brief announcement to everyone.
Yes.
So as we're doing the webinar, if anyone has any technical concerns, please go ahead and mention them in the chat box. And also, as Tera goes through the discussion, she may ask a question. And if she does and you'd like to answer it, you can simply press raise hand if you're on the computer with us. And if you're on the phone, and for everyone else, we will be having a Q&A session with Tera at the end of the webinar. So just to let you know, we are here to answer all of your questions. The beginning of the webinar will be more like a lecture format, and then the ending of it, we will do the Q&A. So even if you don't see me, I am still here on the phone and in the background. I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to Tera. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Lisa. And Lisa, when they want to raise their hands, do they first click the interact button at the top and then they raise their hand? How do they do that?
They can do that, yes. They can, if they see that on their screen, if they see interact, they can press that, or they may see something that looks more like raise hands. Okay. Yeah, and then we'll have time at the end of the lecture to have Q&A and really discuss a little bit more in depth some of your issues or concerns or challenges, current challenges. We can go into that. In fact, I'm willing to stay an additional half an hour to really field your specific concerns. So, okay, I'm going to yeah. One brief thing, there's a little clicking sound, and I think it might be the beads of the glasses that's clicking against the headset there. So just...
Oh, thank you, Lisa. Yeah, I appreciate that feedback. Thank you so much. Okay, let me see what I can do about that. Okay. Is that better?
Much better, thank you.
Oh, sure. Okay, doke. So if you see on your screen, Lisa, do you see on the screen the overview?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
Yes, and for everyone who's observing, if you are on the computer and you hover over the screen sharing document, in the upper right corner there's a maximize. So if you'd like to see it bigger, you can press the maximize button, or you can choose to see it smaller, and you'll be able to see Tera speaking at the same time.
Great. Thanks, Lisa. So, okay, so, yeah. So what we're going to do, the overview of our time together today, we're going to first talk about a little bit about the power of words. And then we're going to really talk about communication and just to define it and what it's really about. And then we'll get into the 4-step process of NVC. And we'll really break it down step by step. The 4 steps, will really go into that thoroughly. We'll talk a little bit about empathy and authenticity and honesty, the 2 foundational parts of the process, which will help you connect in ways that will support everyone to feel heard and everyone getting their needs met. We'll talk a little bit about, first, what NVC isn't, some roadblocks to communication. And scrolling on down, we're going to then talk what it is. You know, we'll really talk about what are its underlying principles, and then and really get into the model itself. So this is a process, a simple 4-step process for expressing and listening that inspires cooperation and compassion, even in the most challenging or most uncomfortable, difficult of situations. Lisa will be sending you this document after our workshop today, so you can, there's a blog post at the end that I think I had written for IDA in June of 2014, just about some specifics about helping the vegan activists, and that'll be sent to you. And we talked about our follow-up questions and practice. I would love, it says to be arranged, I would love to be able to continue with practicing this model and ongoingly, and hopefully we can arrange that. And as we said, there will be time after our lecture today to field some questions and answer time. Okay, so, oops, I just hit the wrong E. So Before we get into the specifics of communication, I just want to talk a little bit about the power of words. And I want you to just contemplate for a moment. The power of words cannot be underestimated. How we use words with the thoughts we think in our heads and then the words we express out will not only just sometimes impact our experiences of reality, but can actually generate our reality. So I want to just have you contemplate for a moment. Think of just the power of one word spoken in a theater, in a subway, in a bank, or just one word. Simple little, sometimes three-letter word like gun, fire, bomb, a small little word, and what kind of an intense, immense impact that can have. So I just want us to be kind of thinking a little bit about the power of words. And when you think about, especially here in California, we are very conscientious about making healthy diet choices. I want us to consider making healthy word choices because our words, we want them to be serving life, to be in the service of life, life supportive, not life alienating, but life supportive. And so I just want us to kind of get in that consciousness for a moment, just to really be aware of how powerful our words really are. And I would like to just give you one experiment. So think for a moment about your favorite food, whether it's hot pizza from the oven or hot apple pie a la mode with the apple, with the ice cream melting over the apple pie, and just imagine yourself taking a big bite of your, Lisa, I can hear some noise back there, by the way, FYI. Thank you. So just imagine your favorite food. It's only a thought in your head. It's just an imagining. Maybe it's some words in your mind. But typically what will happen is you might start salivating within seconds. There's no real food there. It's just a thought made up of words. And it will have a visceral, a distinct visceral reaction in your body. So it behooves us to be really mindful about using our words always in the service of life, never life alienating. And that's why I'm here today, because I am passionate about contributing this way. I've been passionate about NVC since 1992. As Lisa mentioned, I taught communication skills building with the community colleges since 1982 and up until 2002, and then I discovered NVC in 1992. And I see NVC as a way to actually really serve life, to bring peace on earth. When we use our words and our language in self-responsible and respectful ways, all our relationships are supported and can often be transformed. So, okay, let's just think about communication now. The definition of communication, of course, it involves two things: speaking and listening, or expressing and listening. And this is the famous communication tube. I don't know if you can see me online, but if you're just on the phone, I'm holding this plastic tube, and I call it the communication tube. And so, of course, we said it involves two things. So you speak at one end, the speaking goes through the tube, and hopefully what you have to say goes all the way through the tube, nice and easy, unencumbered, and is received on this end. And now, this person over here is listening and receiving it fully. And then it might be their turn to speak, and they come all the way through the tube, and it's received on this end with understanding, with active listening. This is what we're going to show you today, how to do this. And then the tube is nice and clear, and it's a beautiful thing. Now, what often happens, though, is somebody has something really golden and beautiful. I'm holding up this golden piece of paper, and I'm stuffing it through the speaking end of the tube. And on the other end of the tube, I'm stuffing in another piece of golden paper. This is what often happens is both people have something really important to say, but at the same time. And so nothing can go through the tube. So there's in the center of this tube, if you can't see, there's a red piece of paper, and that is representing just some difficulty or challenge or frustration, or it's the beginning of war, basically, when people aren't listening to one another. It's like, listen to me, no, listen to me, no, listen to me. And this is what keeps this tube stuck. So if you think of it in terms of, think of this communication in terms of like a little river. And the river, when it's flowing nice and easily, it's clear. As soon as it's dammed up, that can start putrefaction. So we want to have it nice and clear and fluid. So when we think about communication, these two things that are involved, speaking and expressing or listening, both require active, conscious, and compassionate participation. The purpose of communication is on the simplest level, of course, to just exchange ideas or information, but on the deepest level, it's to connect with ourselves and others in an authentic, self-responsible, empowering, and heartfelt ways. It's for connection and for everyone to get their needs met if we are communicating in this way. So NVC will help you model this way of communicating in the ways that you speak and listen. So we're going to first start with the emphasis on listening, because what I have seen is most people are so chomping at the bit they're thinking about what they're going to say next. They're so excited about contributing or sharing or giving information or educating. And that's a wonderful thing, but each person is so excited about that often we're not really listening then to where the other person's at and what's going on for them with a real understanding. So we want to focus first on listening, receiving your speaker's message by accurately hearing what they are feeling, what's important to them, what's deeply meant in the message, and what are the underlying needs that the feelings are all pointing to and connected with. We then reflect back with compassionate and connected heart. You've accurately heard, which will enhance then the possibility of guiding each other towards the clarity and relief we're all seeking. So, and then NVC also, we learn to speak and express ourselves in ways that will also maximize the possibility of our being heard, deeply understood, and again, everyone getting their needs met. So before we go into it and break down what nonviolent communication is in specific, we're going to talk just about what it isn't. We're going to talk about roadblocks, typical roadblocks, common roadblocks to communication. By practicing NVC, this 4-step process, you'll avoid these pitfalls of typical roadblocks like preaching, warning, blaming, shaming, persuading, diagnosing, interrogating, advising, agreeing, sympathizing, commanding, ordering. These unhelpful responses will convey a lack of understanding or caring about the other's point of view and can often lead others to just shut down, walk out, shut down, or blame you and start a fight or start a war. So most of us are very familiar with those kinds of things. I raise my hand, raise your hand if you familiar with those things. And in fact, I want to introduce you to to these two puppets. Marshall Rosenberg. This is a process. Nonviolent communication was developed by Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, and in the 60s, he was a therapist. These are two editions, so whatever might be familiar out there. And we call it a language of life. In this one, the first edition called A Language of Life, and this edition is called A Language of Compassion. I think this is the later edition. And we use these mascots to kind of help us in teaching. And we use the giraffe as the symbol of nonviolent communication. We're going to get into this a little bit more. But we use the jackal to illustrate all these roadblocks, all these pitfalls of communication, we call them. This is the one that's just, we use the jackal. This is the one that's just going to kind of go after the jugular. And basically, it's a symbol of language from your head, what you think about people. Oh, I think you're such a, or you should do this, or you shouldn't do that. It's moralizing and shaming and blaming and judging and criticizing. That's what the symbol we use. So often, if you get involved with NVC, you might hear people say, oh, that's jackal language, as opposed to giraffe language. Now, giraffe language is language of the heart, and we use this mascot because the giraffe is the land animal that has the largest heart to pump that blood all the way up the neck. So we use this to illustrate empathic, compassionate, heart-centered language. So it's a process that inspires for expressing and listening, and a philosophy of consciousness that inspires connection, cooperation, and compassion, even in the most difficult situations. It helps us to connect with one another at the heart level. Using our natural empathy, we can diffuse stressful situations and support others who might be feeling angry, fearful, overwhelmed with any other emotion. The intention of NVC is to inspire compassion from others and to respond compassionately to others, thereby enabling mutually respectful connection on a needs-based human level. Guides us to reframe how we express ourselves and how we hear others without those pitfalls, the shaming, blaming, judging, criticizing. We communicate instead by focusing on the simple yet powerful 4 steps, which we're going to go into in depth, of the model, which are observing, feeling, needing, and requesting. And it can help turn around painful situations and relationships, let go of blame and judging towards others and themselves, find peace by feeling empowered to identify our needs. That's the key. That's the heart. If we can identify our needs and the needs of others, and we can get connected on the needs level, that's when we typically will feel empowered and some relief. And then we can be in action on behalf of getting those needs met. We make choices, and that's what's empowering. So here we go. We're going to go right into the 4 steps. Is everybody okay so far? Any questions that you have so far? Lisa will let me know. Otherwise, we're going to go right into the 4 steps. Okay, so observation is the first step. Observation. We learn to distinguish observation from evaluation or judgment by simply observing what is there, just the facts, without any subjective editorializing, with no judgment, criticism, blame, shame, or wrong-making. Ask for what you want without wrong-making anybody. It's as simple as that. Observation without evaluation consists of noticing the concrete things and actions around us in the present moment or remembered from the past. In other words, what a video camera could record. So when this happened, when I see, notice, hear, remember, I was talking earlier and you said this, or when I remember, last year when we went to the reunion, or when I think about some of the practices of, the government or, the animal, meat industry. So it's in the present moment, you're recalling, you're thinking about, you're noticing, you're seeing. It's literally almost what a video camera could record. It could record you thinking about something or remembering something, or it could see you doing that. So, for example, here's a statement to show you the difference. When I saw the turkey on the Thanksgiving table, that's just an evaluation. And then you're going to talk about your feelings about it, which we'll get into next. But that's an observation. When I saw the turkey on the Thanksgiving table, as opposed to the statement, people shouldn't eat turkey. That's evaluation, that's judgment, criticism, shame, blame, all those things that are going to be roadblocks for people to really hear. What is your heart saying about when you see the turkey on the Thanksgiving table? So the purpose of this is so that people can really maximize the possibility of hearing one another's hearts, what's really in their hearts. And this tool will help with that. Okay, so then we're going to step number 2. Feeling. So when this thing happens, step number 2, this observational thing happens, step number 2, there's some feelings that come up. When we notice things around us, we inevitably experience varying emotions in each particular moment. Here, distinguishing feelings from thoughts. Now, this is a distinction, not what we think, not the jackal. I think the government is corrupt. No, I feel scared when I consider some of the practices of the government, perhaps. So, distinguishing from thoughts is an essential step in the NVC process. Feelings represent our or another's inner felt sense experiences rather than any interpretations of thoughts. They let us know if our needs or the other's needs are met or unmet. And we're going to talk about that at length. When our needs are met, we're going to have good feelings. When our needs are not met, we're not going to have such good feelings. And we're going to discuss that at length. And they require noticing, identifying, and expressing. So, for example, when this observational thing happens, I feel, or do you feel, angry, sad, I feel scared, whatever. I feel, do you feel? So here's another example. I think eating meat is unhealthy. This is a thought. I think eating meat is unhealthy. That's a thought. Now, as opposed to a true feeling, while I feel annoyed when I consider the practices of the meat industry, that's a feeling. A feeling. I feel scared, or I feel annoyed, or I feel uncomfortable. I'm not comfortable eating meat. That's a true feeling. We're just distinguishing it now between a feeling and a thought. That's all. It's not to say that saying I think eating meat is unhealthy is not an okay thing to say. I held up the jackal. It's not really true. We're distinguishing it from a feeling. Okay, moving on down. We're going to just now really get into what feelings truly are, because often people will use what we call non-feeling words as feelings. these are really evaluations. These are really jackal evaluations, because what they imply is when we think what people have done to us, as if they're the perpetrator and we're the victim, we use words like this: abandoned, dumped on, intimidated, manipulated, pressured, patronized, smothered, rejected. These are not true feeling words according to this system. And I agree. This implies that, like we said, that someone has done something to us, and we're this this victim. We're this disempowered victim. This is very disempowering language. And so the idea of NVC is we want to support becoming literate, really literate in the realm of true feeling words, true needs, true observations, not evaluations. We want to get really literate in the way we use words. So again, it will maximize the possibility of everyone getting their needs met. So there's a whole bunch of these words: neglected, violated, threatened, criticized, distrusted. We encourage staying away from these kinds of words. It will typically people will sympathize with those words and shut down. So, Lisa, again, I'm reminding you, we'll send you this this information at the end. Now, we also use words like the next section, when we think what we are, where we've evaluated our own self, jackling our own selves. And we're saying, oh, I feel foolish, guilty, stupid, unimportant, worthless, oh, unseen. That's also judging ourselves, and we really encourage staying away from these words as well. Because it's one thing to say, I feel scared or concerned, but it's another thing to say, I feel stupid. Because these are labels, basically. Inadequate, stupid, these are just labels. NVC stays away from labels because labels are static. They're very static. And as we know, human beings are dynamic, alive creatures. And so to pigeonhole something and put a static stamp on somebody as stupid or insensitive or selfish, no. They might have done something that didn't meet your need for the quality of consideration you might have wanted, but they are not stamped selfish. We stay away from these things. There's another little section down below, other non-feeling warning signs. We really highly recommend when you use the word feel, I feel, or are you feeling, that word feel, always follow it with a true feeling word and not with this list of words. Do not follow these I feel like, I feel that, I feel it, I feel as if, I feel you, he, she, they, it. Because rather than a real true feeling statement, what tends to follow will just be thoughts, evaluations, judgment, criticism, all that stuff listed above, jackal stuff. Okay, I feel like you should have da-da-da-da-da. No, I feel sad or anxious or whatever. I wish that I have a need to rely on our agreement. And it makes all the difference. We'll see in a few moments. Okay, everybody doing okay so far? Lisa, everybody's good? Well, I'm not hearing from Lisa, so I guess everybody is. Lisa, everything's good? Hello? Let me just check with Lisa.
Yeah,
yes?
Everything's fine.
Okay, great. Thank you. Just wanted to check and see. Okay. Now, this is a list of true feeling words. And they're in two sections. At the top and at the bottom, the top is feelings likely to be present when our needs and wants are not being satisfied. So remember, feelings are always connected to needs. So when our needs are not satisfied, we're going to feel something in this upper category here. Angry, scared, tired, sad, confused. These are what we call true feeling words. Exhausted, fatigued, puzzled, torn, uncomfortable, uneasy, afraid, anxious, disgusted, overwhelmed, lonely. Now they say hurt. I don't particularly like that one. I say hurting. I'm hurting inside, but hurt sort of implies that someone that someone has done some hurtful act to us. So I don't like to use that one. I like to say maybe I'm in pain or I'm hurting right now and own it. It's all about being self-responsible. Okay, the next section, true feeling words likely to be present when our needs and wants are satisfied. All these categories, loving and a whole list of those types of words, glad, playful, peaceful. So these are what we call true feeling words. They're all connected to our needs. Okay, can we move on, Lisa? Everybody's good? Anybody have any questions about feelings before we move on to needs?
Looks good.
Looks good. Oh, actually, here's one more section. This is invaluable, actually. I forgot about this. This is invaluable. This is a little chart that helps you to really identify if you were to use a word on the left side in that category, if you were to use one of those alienating kind of words or roadblock to communication type words, like abandoned or abused or attacked. I feel attacked, or you're attacking me now, or you're belittling me, or I feel betrayed. You come over and you see in the chart in the center what you might really be feeling. If you say, I feel betrayed, what are you really feeling? Maybe I'm feeling hurting, disappointed, enraged, angry. Maybe I'm truly feeling those things. And then you come over and what you might be needing, and we're going to talk about needs in a moment, but let me just give you an example. What you might really be needing, if you use a word like betrayed, what you might be needing at the core is trust, dependability, honesty, honor, commitment, clarity, reliability. So if someone didn't show up or didn't do what they said they might do, you might be having a need for reliability, relying on their agreements, and a need for honoring agreements, and a need for commitment to agreements. So this is how to use this chart, and this is very invaluable. It'll give you some real concrete ideas. If you use a word like insulted, what you might be feeling is angry, embarrassed, and you might really be needing respect and consideration, acknowledgement, recognition. Okay, we're going to move on to needs now. The third step in this process, this NVC process. Okay, so here we go with needs. All individuals have needs and values that sustain and enrich their lives. When the needs are met, like we said, we'll experience comfortable, good feelings like happiness and peacefulness. And when they're not met, we might experience uncomfortable feelings, like we said, anger, frustration, irritation, overwhelm, sadness, whatever. Recognizing that we, as well as those around us, have those needs, and then identifying them is perhaps the most important step in the NVC process. So that's what we really emphasize. Really get connected with yourself and others at the needs level. That's when you can start to feel more empowered. When you first identify, gosh, what am I needing? What is going on here in me or in the other person? What are they needing? You can connect on that level. It starts to unwind all that stress, and we can get some relief and start to think more clearly. Okay, now this is what's going on in me. This is what I'm needing. Okay, who can I ask to do what about it? And we'll talk about that. That's the fourth step. So, just a reminder about needs. Needs are universal. All human beings have the same needs. And this is really important. They are not person-specific. I don't need you to get me a glass of water. I might need some water, and I might ask you, but I don't need you to do this. And that is really key. And they're not thing-specific either. It's not person, place, or thing-specific. It might be a strategy to get that need met, to have ask this person to get you water, or to go to this event with that person to meet your need for connection and closeness or whatever, or camaraderie or whatever. But your needs are not person, place, or thing specific. Of course, we talked about they generate our feelings and they motivate our behavior. So here's some examples down below. Options for expressing. So I'm feeling what we said before. I'm feeling from the feelings list because I'm needing such and such, or because I value such and such, or because such and such is important to me. These are ways that you can learn, that you can use to express what you're needing. And options for listening, when this observation and feeling happens, are you needing this? Were you hoping, wishing, or wanting that, this or that, because you value this or that, or because this or that is important to you? And that's when you choose from the needs list, which we'll get to in just a moment. So, for example, here we go. I hear you are, or are you? You can ask it in the question form, or you can say, I hear that you're saddened. Sounds like you're sad. Or you can ask in question form, are you sad? Saddened, which is the feeling, by the practices of the meat industry. That's the observation, because you need to trust that others also value the life of all living beings. That's an example. You're hearing the feeling, you're talking about what is the observation, the practices of the meat industry. You're not saying the corrupt, you're not evaluating it, you're just stating the facts. And because that person might need to trust that others also value the life of all living beings. When you say it like this, it'll just be less inflammatory. So here's a list of needs. Here's a list of needs. Here we go. Let me see. I think I might even have, we can send you even other lists. You can download these lists of needs on the CNBC website, the Center for Nonviolent Communication website, easily. They have, we're going to send you this one. I kind of like this just little flower format. And here's just a list of some needs. The need for well-being, peace of mind. You know, if someone's late, you might have a need for peace of mind. If you're worried, you have a need for peace of mind. You have a need for honesty and authenticity, clarity. So you might ask someone if they would explain because you have a need for clarity. Your need for autonomy, or your need for meaning in life. Now, empathy, they list as a need. Sometimes I think of it as a strategy to meet your need for understanding and to meet your need for connection and love. Underneath it, the need for love and connection and just mattering. Empathy is a good tool. I think of it as a strategy. So these are just a list of needs that might help. And so remember, needs are resources required to sustain and enrich life. Needs are universal. Needs make no reference, like we said, to any specific person doing any specific things. And then a distinction here is need versus a strategy. Remember, what is the strategy that you might employ to get a need met? And that's where we come up with step number 4. Step number 4, requests, strategies, and guidance, we can call it. Oh, unfortunately, I didn't edit this as well as I wanted to from the training manual for the helpline. To determine, we'll call it your listener's clear and present request, or to state your clear and present request generated by the requirement to fill these unmet needs. Then we want to get specific concrete actions that they can take to fulfill those needs. This is crucial to the transformation and the connection that we're looking for. I apologize for not editing this a little bit better here. Remember, requests arise from the need. Nature will inspire us to take actions to fulfill our needs once we connect to them. Keep them concrete and specific or doable. This is really important. Make it a specific or doable thing. So if you have, for instance, a need for reassurance, and you have a request about that from your partner, say, and you say, honey, would you be willing, if you just say, oh, would you reassure me? And he's not going to know, or whomever is not going to know what to do. But if you say, I have a need for some reassurance, would you be willing to let me know that, you know, within a day, if you want to go or not to this reunion or whatever it is? Make it specific and doable. Would you be willing to call me the next time you're going to be later than we agreed? To meet my needs for consideration, reliability, and trust, versus, would you show you care? Always include willingness. This is really important. When you make I'm turning on some heat. When you make a request of somebody, always focus on making sure there's a willingness, that you want to include their willingness. And for yourself, too, there's a willingness. Never come from a should, a have to, a must, duty, but from your own willingness to contribute to life. Always let the listener know what need of yours will be met if they agree. This will be so lovely for me because it would so meet my need for closeness or companionship or support or whatever. Let them know. So this is the statement. Would you be willing to? Here's another example. Would you be willing to have a conversation with me about veganism? Now this works. While I need to know that you care about animals, does not, since there's no concrete action that is being requested. I hope that makes sense to you. All right, so let's use an example. Here's an example of all 4 steps now. When you arrived to the activist meeting, okay, here we go. So this is giraffe. when you arrive to the activist meeting later than you agreed to, that's just an observational thing. A movie camera could record them saying, I'm going to be there by 4. Then it can look at the clock and say, oh my gosh, it's now 5:10. Okay, so you want to maybe talk with them about it. I felt really worried and concerned and kind of annoyed or frustrated, whatever you might have felt. Because I need, and that's the feeling, because there's a need to rely on our agreements, and also I need consideration for my time. I could have done something else. Say it was, oops, excuse me, fell out again. Or maybe it was somebody going to meet you at a restaurant or for a movie, and they said they would be there by 4 and they didn't show up. And maybe you could have done something else. You could have been reading or didn't have to rush out of the house so soon. You could have done something else. So you're aware that you have a need for consideration of your time. Would you be willing, here's the request, specific and doable. Would you be willing to call the next time you know you'll be later than we agreed? Thank you, Mr. Graff. Some empathic, one second. Okay, some empathic listening and questions to use are as follows. What I'm hearing is, and I wonder if you might have been hoping for or needing this, please tell me more about the situation or about how you were or are feeling. What are your thoughts about? These are just some samples and examples of how you can use this model. I hear that you're really sad, frustrated, angry over this incident. I'm guessing you would have liked to trust that the animals would be safe. Stay in empathic listening at this stage. Just listen to the person. Or reflecting back, I'm hearing how very tired, upset. These are just some examples. Tired, upset, overwhelmed you are over all of this. Is that accurate? I'm getting a sense you're feeling really worried about all this. Just some examples. And as I said, there is a blog down below for you to take a look at when you get this document. The healing power of language can't be underestimated, and how nonviolent communication can assist the vegan activists. All righty. So let me see if there's anything else I want to share with you. Let me see. Here we go. Oops, no, wait, here we go. Stop screen sharing. There we go. Hi again. So I just want to, just some basic rules of thumb. Please just think about it as taking the finger pointing out of your language. No should statements, because it's really shouldy to should on others or yourself. No, bad or wrong making. You should, you never, you always. No absolutes. That's just kind of a basic rule of thumb. And let's see what else I really want to tell you. Again, a reminder is NVC helps us to stay out of the paradigm, perpetrator-victim, and into the paradigm of power with. Power with, not power over, but power with. I do teach another class called Powerful Distinctions, where we get into the nuances. It's more intermediate learning about, for instance, well beyond just these 4 distinctions that we've talked about today, but things like the distinctions between a response and a reaction, or the distinction between being values generated versus stimulus driven, or just a whole list of very supportive specifics. about how to use language in an empowered, impactful way that's going to maximize the quality of connecting that you're after. And I thank you so much. We're going to open it up now for question and answer period. And Lisa, I'm going to kind of hand it over to you to manage that.
Yeah. So thanks, Tara. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us this evening. It was very interesting and super helpful. So I'd like to make a couple of announcements before we go into the questions, just in case some people may or may not be able to stay for the duration. So I wanted to first just let you all know that I will send a replay link from this discussion, so you'll be able to watch it again, or for those people who weren't able to watch, if you were on the phone, you can always do that as well. And when I send that email, I will include the documents that Tara was mentioning, the one that she was working from, and with the link to the blog. And I also wanted to let you know that our next webinar is going to be, this is our Sustainable Activism webinar for January, and our February webinar, which is always the first Thursday of the month, will be on the 4th of February, and will be on ecofeminism with Dr. Lisa Kemmerer. And then next week, we have a vegan spirituality online gathering that happens the second Thursday of every month, and that one will feature a gentleman named Keith Ackers, who has written a book that explores if Jesus was vegan. So it'll be an interesting discussion. And at the end of the month, on the 28th, we are putting together an animal activist online support group, and we'll have the assistance of a life coach who focuses on social justice issues, Phyllis Levinson, who will join us in that group discussion. So I hope you'll stay tuned, and all of these events are posted on idausa.org/events. So I'll include that link for those people who are interested in just staying tuned with all the programming that we're putting together for activists. So now what we'll do is we're going to go into what we call a Q&A mode. And so that means that we will, folks who are on the phone, you can press *6 in order to ask your question. And if you are online, you can, next to your name, there's a little microphone, and you can click on that to unmute yourself. So that will be in just a brief moment. 1 second, I'm just going to shift that, and you'll hear a little announcement as that happens.
All attendees are muted and may unmute themselves by pressing *6.
Great, so that's our cue. So anyone who has a question, it can be a specific question if you'd like for Tara, then she'll go ahead and answer. And you can just unmute yourself, whether you're on the phone or on the computer. And we'd love to hear from you. And if for some reason you'd rather use the chat box, that's fine too. You can type a little message and we'll get it, and then I can relay it to Tara.
I have a question for you.
Wonderful. Okay. Can you say your name?
Hi, my name is Heather.
Hi, Heather. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, and thanks for holding this. It's very helpful. I am going to be attending a protest of a rodeo this Sunday, and I haven't yet, this will be my second protest, and I haven't yet had the opportunity of actually speaking with the people that will be attending these events. So if I do happen to get some pamphlets to hand out and have, a brief conversation while they're waiting in line to go into the venue, I'm wondering if you have any tips for that brief communication and what the best way of going about, I guess, a positive and hopefully something that promotes change on their part, some type of communication.
Great. Thanks, Heather. Yeah, I'm thrilled that you are thinking about this. You're thinking about, how can you maximize the greatest impact, right? And
right.
So I would love for you to take a look at the model again and just see if you can translate everything into those 4 steps. So,
Okay.
So the observational thing, you're going to be in line. So let's just think. You're going to be handing out some flyers, yeah?
I'm going to volunteer to do that. So if I do walk up to folks, I'm thinking about your model. I'm on the phone, so I didn't see your presentation, but I'm just thinking, okay, you know, if I only have a few moments to talk to someone, I'm thinking something like, "Hi, I'm here because I'm concerned that a lot of you may not be aware of the suffering that the animals endure for these events, and I was wondering if you'd be willing to take a look at this literature." And that's all I can come up with.
Yeah, I like it. So, yeah, you're saying you're saying exactly what's in your heart. I have some concern about, maybe start with your own heart. I have some concern, because when you say you statements, people typically tend to kind of contract and get defensive. But if you say from your own heart, I have some concern. I'm here today because I have some concern about the welfare of the animals in these rodeos, and I wonder if you might be willing to hear a few things of what I have to say, or be willing to take a brochure about this.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, that does. Thank you.
Welcome. Anybody else? We have some time, and I'm willing to stay. If you have some specific challenges or issues that you're just kind of stuck with, you just might want to get some help unwinding from.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Oh, perfect.
What's
okay,
your name?
Wonderful. I'm Shauna. My name is Shauna.
Hi, Shauna.
And hi, and Tara, I had the privilege of going through a workshop like this with you back in, I think it was April or May,
wow.
the retreat, and it was wonderful. So this is a great refresher. Thank you so much.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. And so I just have some questions anticipating what the listener's response may be. And so it's kind of 3 parts, but they're all interrelated. And so it basically comes down to, what if the listener either tries to deflect or shut down the conversation? They're not interested for one reason or another. And so one may be they're expressing they don't want to talk about it, or the other might be, after you make your request, they say, because I don't feel like it, or I'm fine with things the way they are, or different people have different lifestyles. And so, yeah, that would be the primary part. And then the third one, or the primary, secondary, the third part would just be, what if they agree and then they don't follow through? And then you have to have a follow-up conversation, how you do that in a way that's not accusatory either. It doesn't come across that way.
Right. Great. Okay. I think I heard that the first part is how do you in jackal language, in giraffe language, how do you handle when someone is being not open to what you have to say? Is that what I heard?
Yes. That's perfect.
Okay. So what I recommend is, in fact, I usually have some giraffe ears on that I put on my head. So in that case, remember how we talked about in the lecture tonight, focus on listening. When someone is, quote unquote, not interested, or you sense that they're resistant, or they say something that doesn't seem like they're willing, focus on listening, really listening to where they're at and what's going on, rather than pushing your agenda. So it would look something like this. So what I'm hearing is you're saying, you be the participant, or the person giving me the kind of jackal response. Okay?
Okay.
So
sure.
Go ahead.
So this is based off of you've already stated how you're feeling. You've gone through maybe the 4 steps, and so I would say something along the lines of, so I hear what you're saying, but I'm really not seeing this as a problem.
So you just don't even see this as a problem to be concerned with.
Correct.
Keep going.
Yes,
you keep going.
Yeah, I really don't feel like talking about it.
And so it's just not something that you really want to engage in, yeah?
Right, exactly.
Great. I hear you and I respect that. So I'm just going to pause that for a second. So that's the most important thing to do, is to hear people, respect where they're at, because then they'll start to feel like they're not in combat. You know, they're not having to defend or combat themselves. They might even shift a little bit to, oh, wow, she's not being commanding of me or forcing me or whatever. They're being respectful. Maybe I can soften up a little bit. You might see a shift.
Okay.
If they don't shift, you can still then say your truth. Well, I feel sad because I'm so passionately wanting to support the lives of these innocent animals, and it just saddens my heart. And I wish that you would be willing to speak from your own heart. I wish that you'd be willing to hear a little bit of what I have to say. And if you're ever willing, would you be willing to take my card? And I'll be happy to share. Whatever, have a card maybe. Just say your truth and say, yes, I'm sad about that because I'm passionately wanting to protect these animals. And if ever you would like to hear a bit more from me, may I give you my card? Something like that. How does that feel hearing this approach?
I think it's a great address to someone who may be, like in the case of the circus protest or the rodeo protest. That way it kind of dissolves that feeling of being on the spot and having to engage when you weren't prepared for it, or the listener wasn't prepared for it. And I think that's a great way to just open up the lines of communication going forward in case they may happen to have a change of heart. But I'm thinking more along the lines of, and I'm sorry, I didn't give you a scenario, but more along the lines of just like everyday life and interaction with someone you know about a subject. For instance, what you had mentioned earlier about, the significant other, the spouse or significant other, letting someone know that they'll be home at a certain time so they don't worry. So an interaction like that, where you wouldn't be giving a card and walking away, but you'd be seeing this person again, and this might be an issue that goes forward.
Right. So, okay, so here's the example that I give about that. I'm sorry my face is so glary with that light. I'm seeing it. So say your honey called you earlier and he said, I'll be home for dinner tonight at 7. And you prepare this lovely dinner and you don't hear anything from him. And this lovely dinner, you put a lot of effort into it because you just felt excited and you wanted to, and you got this new recipe or who knows what. And then you don't hear anything from him. I'm just going to turn off the heater. Excuse me. And then he says, so then he gets home. Again, it's, 8:30. You haven't heard a thing. And so he walks through the door and you say, Hun, may I talk with you about this for a moment? And he could either say sure, in which case it would look like this. Well, when we spoke earlier at lunch and you said you'd be home for dinner at 7, and now it's 8:20, and I didn't hear from you, I was worried. I was scared. I have a need for peace of mind. Oops. And in consideration of my time, same kind of thing. You say all this, and then you make this request. Would you be willing to call me next time? You're going to be, later than what we agreed. Would you be willing? And then he can say yes or no. Now, are you asking, what if he says no? Or what if he says, I don't want to talk about it? Give me
give you either, because I'd be curious to know what the response is for both. But I guess the first one would be, I don't want to talk about it. I didn't mean to. Like, I don't see it as being a big deal.
Okay. I don't want to talk about it. What's the big deal? Just get over it. Come on, I'm tired. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, hun. So, wait, I'm going to see if I can get these guys both in there. So now this is the way you tame a jackal with giraffe. So I hear that you don't want to talk about it right now. You're tired, I'm guessing. Yeah, you're darn right I'm tired. There was all this traffic and I did blah, 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 blah. So you hear him. Whenever you're in the face of a jackal, put your extra giraffe ears on. I wish I had my giraffe ears to show you. I forgot to bring them. And just, amp up the technology with your giraffe listening. And just hear him. So I hear that you just don't want to talk about it. I'm guessing you might have had a really hard day. And then he might say, yeah, I did. And then he'll start talking. So tell me about it. What was overwhelming for you? The only way out of this jackal land is with this guy, the giraffe, if you can do it. Now, what happens for most of us when we're in the face of a jackal, sometimes we turn into a jackal. But you always do this. You never da-da-da. You're always inconsiderate. You're self-centered, blah, 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 blah. And then the tube happens, and then there's that red war thing that happens. Listen to me. No, my side's important. No, listen to me. I had a bad day. Well, gosh, you're so inconsiderate. This is that inflammatory thing that's going to putrefy and create war on the micro level or the macro level. The only way out of this is if somebody backs out of the tube and says, okay, let me listen to you. Now, if you can't do that, which can happen sometimes, you're so stimulated yourself or in reaction yourself that you just have to say, you know what, time out. I work with couples a lot and learn the time out method a lot when both people are just really re-stimulated and nobody can back out of the tube. You just have to take a time out and say, you know what, I'm feeling reactive myself right now, but I'd like to revisit this at some other time. Are you willing to talk about this tomorrow or some other time? So how would he respond to that?
I guess so, if we have to. I'm not sure.
Well, honey, and water that. I really appreciate that because I'd like us to talk about it when we're not in the heat of it. That would be great. Thank you. I look forward to that. And then, if you can, just then nurture yourself. Give yourself some giraffe, empathy yourself. Or call Giraffe 911 and say, you know what, I'm so frustrated with this situation. But you can't. NVC is not about forcing anybody to do anything. It's about being respectful and understanding and compassionate. Remember, our needs are not person-specific. We might have a need for understanding and relief and some clarity or whatever, but we can't demand it.
Right.
The distinction between request and demand. The way you know that you're in demand mode is if no isn't a good answer. Then you're coming from this guy, this jackal. You must do this. You should do this. If you loved me, oh, you're such a bad partner. How dare you? Blah, 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 blah. This is just this jackal power over violent way to communicate. And it's not typically going to get us what we want.
But let's say no is... Oh, sorry, go ahead, please.
So go ahead, what?
Oh, I was just going to ask, let's say you have a need that needs to be met, the need for consideration, and the person is telling you no. On the one hand, I understand the value of being detached from it, but on the other hand, isn't it important to stick up for your needs or to want them, I suppose, to be respected?
Absolutely. That's why you're going to have the talk tomorrow. Absolutely. And if he says, no, I don't want to have this kind of talk, no, every time you want to have these kinds of talks so that you can clear up things, if this person says, no, you might say, you know what? I'm feeling a bit worried that my needs for consideration and the quality of interaction and connecting that I'm wanting in a primary relationship like this is not happening. I don't feel confident that it's going to happen to the degree that I'm wanting. So I would, and you can have all sorts of strategies for that. I would like to suggest we go to an NVC coach or a therapist, a couple of therapists. I personally suggest an NVC coach. I think it's even better than therapy personally. Or you can say, you know what, I've had it. I've had enough. I'm not getting the level of consideration. So then you are always empowered on behalf of you getting your needs met.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It makes perfect sense. And I'm just wondering, I'm thinking it's probably a similar line of thought if someone agrees to do something, to either change or to update you or whatever the case may be, and then they don't follow through. And so you feel like you got somewhere, but then you didn't. Is it just a matter of having that conversation again or expressing why you're concerned again? Okay.
Yeah, and it would look something like this. So I remember the other day when we talked about, and we had this strategy and this agreement, and I noticed the trash is still sitting there, and I'm confused. I feel a little bit confused. Would you be willing to tell me what is going on for you now and what was kind of in the way of you being able to honor this agreement we came up with? So because maybe we just need to go back to the drawing board. But if you do it respectfully, without that wrong-making energy, without the finger-pointing wrong-making energy, there's a chance that that person might open up and say, you know what? Oh, you're right. Okay. Actually, I'm not in the habit yet, or something came up, whatever. And then you can have empathy and compassion for whatever came up, and then just get back on the saddle, the giraffe saddle, and just keep doing the dance. Keep just using this consciousness no matter what move they make, no matter what turn the dance is going to take. You just keep using this consciousness and listening to what's going on with them and ask if they're willing and stating your authentic truth, your truth.
Okay.
Does that sound clear?
Yeah, it definitely does. And what I'm envisioning, like in your scenarios, there's so direct, and I love that. And I understand that, like, just what you're saying. I guess you keep trying to have that open communication until you get to that level. But I can just envision as well something where if someone's answering you, but in vague answers, like, oh, I'll get to that later, or I will, something along those lines where they don't give you any specific either resolution or time frame or something, then I feel like it puts the person who's initiating the conversation, let's say me, in the position of it almost at that point sounds like it's nagging. And how do you avoid that?
Gotcha. So then I would, because I also don't want to nag, so I would say something very authentically like that. I don't want to nag. I don't want to do that. And I would love, I'm hearing a lot of noise. Heather, I don't know if it's, but I'm hearing a lot of noise on this end.
Oh, it may have been me. I'm sorry. I was moving something on the side. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So I'd say, I would really love some concrete specific that would meet my need for some confidence and reassurance. Would you be willing to give me a specific concrete thing that you'd feel comfortable at do at this point? You can ask. Always ask. And if they say, no, I'm not willing to, and they say, okay, I respect that, and I think then in that case, I'm going to do this. You're always empowered, remember? On behalf of your needs, you can ask, You can ask, and you can ask in different ways, and then you can say, you know what, I don't feel confident that I'm going to get my needs met here as much as I might like. And so I'm considering maybe leaving this or transforming the type of relationship we might have. You're always empowered. You're never the victim. That's at the heart of this. And this tool, this language, helps you to feel empowered and responsible and respectful. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Thank you so much.
And I have to say that it's a language that it's building different muscles, and it takes a lot of time, because most of us will default right back into our old habitual ways of training. And most of us have been trained in this jackal, most of us. So it's very important to be patient with ourselves and others, and compassionate with ourselves and others when we default back there. Just say, oops, and just pick yourself up, dust yourself off, off, and do what you can to clean it up, and use your 4 steps. Just use your 4 steps and do your best you can. And I'm available. And, I highly recommend getting the book. It's one of my main Bibles.
Great. Thank you. Thanks so much. Yeah. So I'm wondering if, thanks, Shauna, for sharing your question. Does anyone else have any other questions? And it's fine if you'd like to be specific too. That will help as well.
I have a question, but it's more, this is Christine. Christine, sorry.
Hi, Christine.
Hi. It's more just in general, being involved as an activist, and I found I've almost had to become like an amateur psychologist. Even though I know it's what's required of the work, I can't help at times feeling, almost a resentment that I have to, learn all these different ways of communicating and dealing with people. And it seems almost like instead of focusing on I'm spending more time focusing on being an amateur psychologist than actually the work of helping the animals. I mean, I understand that's part of the work, but it's almost like I feel distracted by all the understanding of human behavior and psychology.
Yeah.
That's become a part of my activist work that I need to deal with. I mean, I understand it's necessary to deal with it, but I also, on the other hand, feel kind of, I don't know any other word except resentful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
May I address this a little bit for you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Is that okay? Well, what I would love, or that I think would support you, is I would love for you to get some big chunks of compassionate, empathic listening, that you get to just empty out all your feelings, your thoughts about how frustrating it is. I would love for you to get some quality empathy, because it can be very overwhelming. It can be frustrating and overwhelming, because I'm hearing you have a lot of passion in your heart to really make a difference, and sometimes you don't see the headway, and you don't see things change as quickly as you'd like, and sometimes it can just feel so cumbersome to make these changes. And I would love for you to just get some good quality empathy. That's what I would love, because I think that'll help you feel connected with, what are the real needs underneath that frustration. And I just, in the interest of time, I said a couple little things, but I would love for you to really get the quality and the time that I think those feelings really would benefit from. How does that feel, hearing me just say that?
Oh, that feels fine. Do you have any suggestions, like call the helpline? Or?
Yes, that would be
Yeah,
marvelous.
actually, I think that's a great idea, because that's exactly why we created this helpline, and it's based on an NVC model, so that all of the counselors that you'd be interacting with would be able to do exactly that. They would give you all the empathy that you needed, so you feel that you can release a lot of the tension that you're experiencing, and then get back to what you truly love about activism, which is helping the animals.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So I posted the number for the helpline is 1-800-705-0425, and I did post that in our chat box, and it's also on the IDA website too. But it's a great resource, and it's open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday right now.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I just really quickly, I wanted to thank both of you for putting on this webinar, and also for IDA for getting the Sustainable Activism campaign. It's the first campaign of its kind, I think, of any animal rights or welfare organization that I've found out about, and I think just want to applaud IDA for taking the lead in this. And I'm still constantly surprised at how many people in the activist community aren't even aware of terms like compassion fatigue.
Yeah.
It's really underrepresented in the community, and I think it adds to a lot of the anger you see in a lot of activists.
That's a good point. That is a good point, Christine. Sometimes we might be angry, or the word that you mentioned, resentful. And when we are feeling those feelings, sometimes they come out in ways that we don't expect, such as a lot of the tension or the yelling, even trying to. Sometimes it might come out to our families accidentally, and sometimes it might come out at protests. Our anger at the whole situation might come out and be directed at somebody who's there attending the event, when really what we're looking for is worldwide change based on compassion. And so we're in an interesting situation where we have this huge amount of compassion for all living beings, and then this incredible frustration that the world hasn't changed the way we want it to. So I think it is important to have an opportunity to talk about it, so that you can know that you're not alone, that other people feel that way, and that we want you to feel just to feel better about what you're doing personally to make a difference, and then to celebrate that.
Yeah. I guess I can't help but wish that humans weren't so complicated.
I know. Yeah, that's real.
Maybe it's just because I live with two dogs and they're so easy to understand, and
we humans are very, very, yes, we are complicated, and because we've been trained like this, and it's not our fault. It's not our fault. So one of the places to start, I would love for you to get the book, the Nonviolent Communication book, and read first the chapter on self-empathy, connecting compassionately with yourself, because I would love, if I were your coach, that's what I would sign you for homework, because I want you to start being patient with yourself and loving and understanding with yourself, and just get lots of empathy for yourself right now, because it's a lot. You're doing a lot of work, and I really have so much appreciation for you, and I want you to continue. So utilize the hotline, see if you can get that book, and and focus on some self-empathy right now.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Great.
welcome.
Thank you, Tara. So I'm just noticing the time, and it's about 6:30, so at least on the Pacific West Coast time. But we are a little gone about 30 minutes over for our questions. And so if anybody has any further questions for Tara, I will be sending out her contact information. Of course, I put it in the chat box, but I'll send out a link with the replay and also with all of her contact information. So you're welcome just to reach out to Tara directly with any questions. And of course, you can contact the helpline. And we just want to be there for all of the activists at IDA. We really want to reach out to everyone and let you know that you're supported and that we care. So thanks to everyone for joining in this webinar, and especially thanks to Tara for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. We really appreciate that.
You are so very welcome. It's been my absolute pleasure to contribute what I think is just such an invaluable, amazing process and tool. So I'm very, very delighted. Thank you so much. And feel free to contact me.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone. So we hope that we'll see you next month for our Ecofeminism webinar with Dr. Lisa Kemmerer. But meanwhile, and maybe even next week on our Vegan Spirituality online gathering with Keith Ackers. So stay tuned to the IDA newsletter and Facebook page, and we'll announce everything there as well. Take care. Have a wonderful night, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
So, Lisa? Oh, hello? Lisa, are you still there?